Well, we've got him here on ABT Lockdown Live. He's your 2020 Suffolk Bass Pro Series Angler of the Year. Matty Langford. There wasn't much fanfare on the weekend because of all of the COVID rules and stuff we had to face. But just as you were slipping away at the end of the event, I think I yelled out to you, think you won AOY, mate? And you're like, I hope so. But, mate, we can confirm it here now. And congratulations on what's been a bit of a weird year, but it's a title that you've always wanted, isn't it?
Yeah, Steve, you're right. Yeah, that when you come run down the bank and said that, I was pretty excited. I got it putting the boat on the boat ramp. It was pretty cool to get it on up there and have a think about it. But so I think I said to you earlier, it's just something that I've wanted to chase for a long time, and to have a name on a trophy with all those other names that have come through in the past. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was. And look, going into the event, let's just step back a little bit and see what the landscape was going in. I think there were two of you tied on first place for AOY.
Yep.
The winner at Wivenhoe and yourself.
Yep.
And it was a matter of whoever of you two finished higher was possibly going to win it, and you would have had to both choke pretty hard for someone like Graham Ford to come up and win it. Now, as it happened, 40 did pretty well and came second in the event on the back of a really strong day too. But you managed to have a good day to yourself and put it in the bag, mate. So take us through that Somerset tournament, how you felt after day one, only having two fish, and then how you brought in one of your trademark comebacks.
I think looking at the weekend, I think before the actual Somerset round, I looked at the weather and the way it was shaping up. I said to a few guys at our camp, I kind of said to them, I said, I think anything that you learn on Friday is probably not going to really help you too much over the weekend, because it was overcast and raining, and it was warm, and then Saturday was cold and partly cloudy with no wind, and then Sunday was bluebird skies and windy. So we found, I guess we still learn a bit on the pre-fish. We caught some really nice fish on pre-fish, and we noticed the bass were feeding on small bonies, so that 30 mil to 40 mil long. And I'm really confident in fishing a Norris wasabi spoon. So that's basically what I chose to fish. I had a whole heap of other spoons tied on, the bigger ones, looking for the bigger fish. But all of those bites that we got Friday and in the pre-fish was on the wasabis. And as far as the fish were positioned, they were kind of all over the dam. There were fish from the Spit, Bay of Plenty, Pelican, Queen Street and Kirklee. So I kind of thought the field was going to be spread out, and generally this time of year the real big fish are caught up at Kirklee there. So I thought anyone fishing up there could potentially catch a big bag. But on the other end of the spectrum, down at the Spit, there was some massive fish at the Spit too. So Saturday went out and fished the Spit early. I know there was Killer and a few other guys down there. I know Killer bagged out at the Spit, but whatever happened on Saturday, I just couldn't get the ball rolling. So I kept fishing the 18-gram wasabi and got bites and had opportunities and landed two. We got 6 bites, landed 3 fish, 1 undersize and 2 legals. And after Saturday, I kind of felt as though it was kind of slipping away. Like the Angler of the Year for me was kind of what I was really focused on, if that makes sense, for this particular tournament. I talked to Dave about it, good mates with Dave, and had a chat about, just going out and having fun. But I think both of us, in the back of our minds after Saturday, we were maybe thinking about it too much and not just fishing. But talked to a few mates about it on Saturday night and felt the feeling of doing badly when you're wanting something so bad. Fishing can be really humbling because it just brings you crashing back down to earth pretty quick. But Sunday, I think the conditions were better. It was windy, and I cycled my spots just like I did on Saturday, and it just happened. So I think I put less pressure on myself, and I had Matty Flynn. We really enjoyed ourselves and had a great time, and the fish just came easily. So it's amazing what can happen when you sort of forget about it and just go fishing and have a bit of fun.
Well, it also shows you how moody those fish in Somerset can be, because it's a dam that's notorious for being wonderful one day and just horrific the next. And I think a lot of the field saw that, and only those consistent guys ended up right at the top. Now, I've heard that lure mentioned a few times now. John Ciancio was talking about that little wasabi spoon. Tell us about it. It's a Norrie's bait brought in by JML, who I think look after you. And it's when they're feeding on those little bonies, it's hard to go past. Explain the lure to us and the techniques.
I'll show you. I've got one here actually at the moment. Just the way I rig it. But this is a 18-gram Norrie's wasabi. It's that. It's got a fluorescent green side with a real silver shine to it. I'll get it in the screen so you can actually see it. And the ZX assist hooks. A lot of guys run a treble and the assist hooks at the top, but I just run the ZX assist hooks underneath. I'll take the treble off and run it that way. But like you said, Steve, it's got a different little movement to it. It's that 40 mil long, like I was saying, that smaller profile, like those small bonies. And I was talking to Mick Geary about it when they, years ago about them, and they've got a really cool little shuffle to them when you're winding them or slow rolling them. They've got a real wave to them. But also on the fall, they've got a really fast, how would you say, real flutter to them on the fall. And Mick also mentioned a few times too that when they fall, at times they'll fall backwards as well. So it's not just a plummet; it's a really inconsistent fall. So just depending on the bite, they'll eat it as you're slow winding, or a lot of the bites we have too, they'll eat it on the fall. So if it looks like a dying bony or a bony getting away from those schools of bony in the dam, doesn't matter where you are, the bass will eat it pretty well.
It's been interesting to see some of the old timers coming back. We saw Jason Ehrlich up there on the weekend, and he just missed out on the money by one place there. Jason's one of those guys that between sort of 20 and 10 years ago spent a lot of time on that lake, and he was sort of like yourself. He took a bit to get going on day one, but when he found the fish, it was sort of game on. Somerset, if you want to give some advice to people that can get to Somerset, and that may be after the borders open, if we ever let anyone into Queensland again, what's your number one time of year and technique that people need to take to Somerset to do well, if they were just going to bring one technique?
I guess the one technique in Queensland, or particular Somerset, is definitely that spoon bite. You can get it going any time of the year, but in particular, the best time of year is probably springtime. So coming out of winter, what are we in now? August, September is generally that time when they really get firing. Those fish really get hungry and they get real active. So you got heating water temperatures. If you pick a day that's less breezy than today, today's gusting winds of 25 to 30. But if you get, a nice day of, slight winds of 10 to 15 Ks and you can drift and move with the wind, that's a good day for Somerset. And like I said, those heating temperatures, consistent heating temperatures throughout the day, generally Somerset can fish well in wintertime in the afternoon, but you get springtime, it heats up well throughout the day and they can bite their heads off pretty much all day in spring. So
it looks like the rest of this week is going to be, a really warming trend coming. It's nearly like we got to Somerset a week or two early, because we're getting some high 20s later this week. And I think for the next month or so, that lake's really going to fire. They love that slow dropping lake conditions. If it's been dropping for a few years a lake, then it seems that they get very comfortable and they concentrate on feeding, not worrying about water quality. Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, that spoon deal what you're talking about, it's just what you do this time of year in that spring. And I think you're right. Like today we've got really cold winds. Maybe it was a little bit early, but you can't pick. Mother Nature's going to beat you every time. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well, talking about Mother Nature beating us, she's dealt us coronavirus this year. So we only got 3 of our 5 qualifiers in that we really wanted to. And it's a shame because we missed a couple of our real key events. The Clarence is always such a good, diverse event. you get everyone from everywhere fishing it. So we missed that, and we also missed the Glenbourne event, which is traditionally one of our bigger events. So it's been a bit of a disrupted season. But as we mentioned at the weigh-in, and something that if you weren't at the weigh-in, you might only be hearing it now, we do have a plan for the rest of the year, and it all depends on whether our Supreme Leader, Anna, is going to open the border or not. So the plan is, if the border does open before the grand final, we're going to run a grand final at Cania Dam. And we all know it's spring, it's Cania, it's got the opportunity to be a real fish fest if it all comes off.
Yeah.
But if that border's closed, we do have a plan B. And the plan B, of course, is to use that grand final weekend and to run dual open events, a Queensland Bass Open and that New South Wales Bass Open down on Glenbourne. And of course, it depends on whether the border's open for the Bass Australian Open as well. Who knows? In 2 weeks, the border might be open. We don't think so. But, if it is and that event's on, well, the Australian Open's going to be on. But if not, we're going to use that grand final slot and we're going to try and run 2 kick-ass events. Joey Urquhart will run the New South Wales one down at Glenbourne. He's got the scales and kit down there. We've divvied all the stuff up already just in case. And then we can run an event up at Cania there. So how cool would it be to have all the Queenslanders fishing in one location, the New South Welshmen fishing in the other location, and at least we get a really good pair of tournaments, of opens, to maybe close 2020 with, and to say 2020 never come back.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good to me. Like you said earlier, if we can have an opportunity, even though under the conditions and the circumstances with coronavirus, if we can have any tournament, and being an open, if we can have a New South Wales and Queensland, well, it's a win-win. So yeah,
that's right. And for 2 Queenslanders talking here, just tell me who's got the better bass fishermen, New South Wales or Queensland?
Who's got the best bass fishermen?
Yeah. I don't see any New South Welshmen in the Elite Series. Come on.
That's true. Yeah. Queensland got up this year, but I did look at the list before, and there's a lot of New South Wales Welshmen in that list.
Nah, look, we know that. We just like stirring them because our rugby league teams are really, really poor at the moment. So we're not worried about that. We're worried about fishing. It's all about fishing this year.
Yeah.
Mate, yeah. As Angler of the Year, we would love to give you an opportunity to thank some of your sponsors on the show, because I know that it's a big effort to get to all the events. Your life is fishing, your guide, and your fish tournaments, and that's what you do, living the dream for some people. I don't know how hard it is behind the scenes to run their businesses, but living the dream, mate, yeah. Who helps you do it?
I think Garmin, with the LiveScope technology over the last 18 months, has just changed the way that not only I fish, but heaps of guys, they're winning tournaments all over the place with it. And like you said before about the technology, you can just put the sounder down. John mentioned on the weekend, there's no guessing with it. So yeah, it's really changed the way you fish, gives you confidence. You can see what you're fishing at. So thanks to Garmin. But Ken Mills Toyota, they give us a vehicle he has for the last 5 years to drive around the countryside towing the boat. And with wear and tear and things like that, I just couldn't do the amount of kilometres that I do with it. Driving up and down the East Coast trying to catch bass. It's pretty awesome to have a Toyota Hilux to do it with Ken Mills backing you. It's pretty awesome. But even the guys with the gear, Norrie's JML Anglers Alliance, Tony from there, he's just a great fellow. He's just always helpful and willing to encourage you and help out with stuff. Glenn and Sue from Bassman, exactly the same. Brilliant people, known them for a long time. Ian Miller from Miller Rods makes awesome rods. I've used them from the very start, thanks to Carl as well. Put us onto a lot of this stuff. So thanks, Carl, for my heart. He's good mantra to go by. But there's I use a few other things too. McCoy Concreting, M&J Auto as well with the lithium batteries. I know I'm real good mates with Mick Johnson as well. So Costa Australia for the Sunnies. There's just heaps of support. Railblazer for my mounts and my boat. There's just so many people willing to support people that are really giving it 100% into their fishing, and supporters like that. It's I'm really thankful, and it's great to see so many people supporting fishermen like us that want to live the dream and fish for a living. So yeah,
No, it's awesome, mate. And as we talked about, Garmin Livescope, 3 from 3 in the Bass tournaments this year, I noticed. So you down at St Clair, and then Dave at Ivanhoe. We filmed that segment on his boat of him whacking the big one. And, of course, then on the weekend, Mr. Ciancio getting it done on his brand new one. So, they're really the company that's moving and shaking at the moment. And, of course, Tony, of course, is going to be all out of wasabi spoons now, isn't he? Of course, after the weekend, it's like if you're not going out to one of the lakes with the little 18 grammers in your box, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's all, mate. Well, thanks very much for joining us tonight on Lockdown Live. It's great to see at least we've had enough events to get an AOY out of the road, and let's all have our fingers crossed so we can get together and have some more good times before the year ends.
Yeah, it's any event that we can fish under the circumstances is going to be a good thing. But I'm looking forward to holding that AOY trophy. That's for sure.
Yep, and we look forward to giving it to you, mate. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Steve.